Production 60203. Many happy returns. This episode was written by Michael Halperin and directed by George Fenady. It originally aired on NBC Friday night 8 p.m. on November 15th, 1985. It was filmed from August 26th through September 4th, 1985. It was the 70th episode to air, but the 69th to be produced. The synopsis reads as follows. Michael is enjoying his birthday when it is interrupted by a young executive who needs Michael's help when her prototype hovercraft is stolen. All right, so another decent episode in season 4, but again, not a ton to talk about. Even NBC's own internal memos of the time kind of stated that, it was an okay episode. The comments that they had were, the script was delivered in fair shape with third act problems. Notes given to make Michael and KITT more active. Production cutbacks have scaled down the action. Dailies have been adequate. Although the hovercraft is promotable, this is an average by the numbers episode. And for the most part, we agree. But let's see if we can, mine any gems. All right, so we start the episode at Lowell Industries. Lowell Industries? Sure. And most of this episode, by the way, was filmed in Long Beach, which they didn't really film in Long Beach too often, I don't think. But most of this was in Long Beach. Now, we've had people in the past ask, where is this building today? Well, unfortunately, it's no longer there. So it was located, this is Long Beach, San Pedro Bay right here. So if you follow this Harbor Scenic Way, this road right here, all the way here, that Lowell Industries building was right here. As you can see, it's no longer there. As recently as 10 years ago, you could still see kind of the footprint of the building here. It's been gone for a long time. But it looks like there's a fence here now. I think it was it right here? Oh, you know what? Hang on a second. This right here is the dock. You remember the scene where Michael drives in, does a 180, and then reverses down and hides and waits for the bad guys? He was hiding right here. So that means the building was maybe right here. Anyways, it was in that general area. So let's go ahead and move on. The hovercraft is apparently equipped with a rocket launcher. We've seen this rocket launcher button before, I think in Goliath, didn't we? And maybe in a couple other episodes too. This is the standard insert shot from Knight Rider of the rocket launcher. All right, so we have this great montage of KITT and Michael driving the convertible while Obsession by the band Animotion is playing, or at least it sounded like. And, of course, this is Jack Gill, not Hasselhoff. And for those of you wondering, 9 cars used for KITT in this episode. Let's go over them. The Season 3-4 Hero car. Of course, this convertible kit, the full-time convertible kit. The right-hand blind drive car, our hardtop stunt car, the same one we've seen since season 1. The general purpose T-top stunt car that first made its appearance back at the beginning of season 3. The left-hand blind drive car. The season 4 insert car. The full-time Super Pursuit Mode car. And finally, the transforming trailer convertible car. There's your 9 cars. Michael and KITT arrive at the 12 Palms Hotel. In reality, a Hilton, or a Doubletree by Hilton in Long Beach. But I like this guy's license plate here, the tan one. That's pretty neat. But we see here he pulls up. Michael's walking up to the 12 Palms. So here's what it looks like today. So KITT was driving along here, parked here, and then this is what it looks like today. The Hotel Maya Doubletree by Hilton. So it got a little bit of a facelift, but for the most part, all the buildings are still the same. Once again, we have another insert shot that has some Easter eggs in it. Well, really just one Easter egg. We've seen this list before on the show, and I always point out Eric Vesper, one of the guys on the insert crew. I talked to him, I think it was last year. Great guy. Had some really cool stories to tell about doing the insert shots on Knight Rider, and there he is, immortalized forever in the show. All right, so Michael and KITT are now headed down to visit Quincy Divers. Henry Quincy there. And if we look here, this bridge, this is the Gerald Desmond Bridge, also in Long Beach. So we can see, it pans down, we see one of the pillars there, the support pillars, and then he pulls up and Quincy's is here. So here's the Gerald Desmond Bridge. Unfortunately, we can't get down street view, but I think Quincy's is like right here. If the building still exists, it would be like one of these buildings right in here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the return of Peter Mark Richmond. Here he plays a bad guy, Kleist. We last saw him in Season 2 playing the good guy of Klaus Bergstrom. This is his second and last appearance in the series. Here we have Hasselhoff stunt double Matt McComb doing a dive into the ocean for this scene. We see Matt a lot, especially in Season 4, and actually he kind of has a more prominent role coming up in Fright Night, where he plays the stunt guy that's injured at the beginning of the episode. And then later he plays Michael's stunt double because Michael is taking the place of the stunt guy that was injured. Very, very meta. And for this one episode only, and really these only couple scenes, we see Hasselhoff wearing this completely different jacket than he's ever worn in the series. This bright red jacket. We'll never see it again, but here it is here. All right, so we get a look at the Knight Industries bugging device, right? Michael pulls it out of KITT's center console glove box and presses the button to activate it. So take a look at it here. It's a square, clear acrylic case. We got a little circuit board in here with some resistors and an IC, and we've got this little red push button switch on it, okay? So then Michael goes and he plants it, and it's a completely different box, right? It's thicker, it's got an IC on the outside for some reason, and it's got this long antenna. It's totally different. And also, let's talk about how Michael decides to hide it inside the door, between the door. This is a sliding door and the wall of the building. So as soon as Henry Quincy moves the door, that thing's going to fall out. And actually, later in the episode, when Michael's coming to confront him, we see him closing that door. So very, very poor choice of where to hide your bugging device, Michael. All right, so this is the hideout of Kleist and his men. It kind of looks like a stock shot, but I think this is also on those Long Beach piers. There's a building, I think it's Pier 4, that looks very, very similar to this. That could be this building. But again, most of this episode was, actually pretty much all this episode was Long Beach. All right, so take a look at this. You know how I said there were 9 cars used in this episode? Well, there might be 10, and this might be the 10th one. Notice how there's no driver's seat. Where is the driver's seat? It's just gone. Or it's fully reclined, but it almost just looks like it's gone. And also, doesn't this car look like it's one of the high traction drop-down cars, right? So what car is this? Is this, it could be, either that old stock nose kit that finally got a real nose, or it's our backup to the hero car that we own, right? Those are the only two that had high traction drop-downs. Not enough detail, not enough information in the screenshot to firmly know which car it is, but I do know it's missing the driver's seat. And there's not much to talk about here except how awesome the Super Pursuit Mode car looks like from this back angle with the sun against it. And, we can see some interesting details. You can see the grain of the fiberglass here on this upward flap, and even how there's a metal piece that was, grafted into the fiberglass there. We can also see the dual resonator exhaust here, which tells us that This car was originally a Trans Am, not a Firebird, which we kind of already knew, but that's the nice confirmation on it there. And remember, this was the Season 3 insert car, now the Super Pursuit Mode car. This episode also contains one of the best views we get of the rubber shell that they put on top of the cars. You see a close-up of it, and you can clearly see just how terrible it looks, how much it breaks up the body lines of the car here. But it's pretty amazing to think about that they molded a Trans Am and then cast this rubber body. And you can even see right here, when they molded it with the actual headlight doors in there. And then when they cut out the headlight doors, they left this little flap right there. That's a piece of the mold of a headlight door right there that they didn't cut off, which is just interesting. That's all. And you can also see all the squibs on it for all the sparks. That's what all that stuff is. This is the hardtop stunt car. And even looking at it on the inside, you can see here's the Trans Am hood, but here's the rubber shell piece of it. And if you think about it, like going back to this, how would they have molded this? Because if you think about it, just taking a mold of something is an exact copy, right? So whenever you make the mold, you pull the mold off, and then to cast a part, you're basically filling the inside of that mold with fiberglass, right, to popping a mold, and it would be an exact copy. But in this case, the shell had to be slightly bigger than the Trans Am. So how did they do this? I don't know if they cast the parts and then added width to the car. I don't know. What do you guys think? How would they have made this copy whenever it had to be bigger than the actual Trans Am? I'd love to know your thoughts below. Another great shot of Matt McComb here doing one of his martial arts kicks, which we see, again, quite a few times in Season 4. And here's the left-hand blind drive car. What's interesting here is they actually prop the passenger seat way up as well, maybe to make the seats look a little bit more even when the car was driving by itself. Because remember, this seat had to be propped up so the stunt guy could see out of the hole in the seat through the windshield and see where he was going. So maybe for this, they propped up the passenger seat as well to make it look a little more even. I don't know. And one of the extremely rare times that we see Michael Knight with a gun in the series. We saw it in the pilot. When else do we see it? Hearts of Stone. It's very, very rare that we see Michael holding a gun in the show. All right, so now we're at the confrontation with the hovercraft at the end of the episode. This is the full-time Super Pursuit Mode car, and it's rare you see close-up shots of the car. And part of that's probably because the build quality was just terrible on this car. I mean, look at this. There's like a plastic tube here to make it look like a T-top and a giant strip here, probably to cover the emergency brake flap, and just this. It's just a very poorly built car when you look at it up close. But it was never meant to be seen really that up close, so I guess it doesn't matter. Yeah, and here's the better shot of the skin, the rubber shell, and you can see the rope that kind of holds the two front pieces together so they don't flap. But again, it's bigger than the Trans Am. How did they do that? They had to have, I don't know, molded the sides of it and then grafted in additional width in the hood and the roof. I don't know. It's very interesting. All right, so now we're on the inside of the car, and we see something very weird here. It almost looks like a fishing pole, but it's not. This is actually the trunk pull cable to pop the trunk. But normally, the trunk pull cables, there's a hole cut in this plastic, and they're hidden. In this particular car, it's just mounted on the outside of the plastic. So I'm not totally sure what car this is, to be honest with you. None of the surviving cars had it mounted this way. So this must have been a car that they rarely used insert shots for, but needed it for that specific day. But that's what that is. That's the trunk pull cable to pop the trunk. And finally, we end the episode with Michael celebrating his birthday, and they make a comment how it's been 4 years since they've all been together. Well, technically it's been 3 years, right? Because this was a 1985 episode, even though it's season 4. He was shot in 82, became Michael Knight in 82. This is 1985. It's actually only been 3 years, but whatever. Alrighty, that concludes Many Happy Returns. Like I said, kind of short and sweet this week. Not really a ton of meat in this episode, but hopefully that'll change in some future episodes. I think maybe it will. But next up, we've got Night Racer, which is another decent episode for season 4. So hope you'll join us for that one. As always, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.